We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Right. Thank you, Marisol. Good morning, everyone. Happy, beautiful. It's not really the first day of spring, but here in America, we changed our clock. So I'm going to pretend like it's the first day of spring. We're on daylight savings time. We're going to have a longer evening today. So, yeah. So today's homily is called Reality Beyond Thought. And what I said we would do today is look at the difference between thought. This is the important part of the description. Are you ready? We're going to look at the difference between thought, which we subconsciously mistake for reality, and reality, which is present and actual. So we'll see how I deliver that homily. It's a little bit challenging. I'm excited to find out how this turns out. But first, we're going to start by greeting one another while Marisol plays Awakening by Deva Pramal and Mitten. So take it away, Marisol. All right. So let me start by sharing our statement of purpose. Awakening together is an assembly of equals joined in one common purpose, which is awakening to the true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern that one truth and then to rest in its embrace, its constant embrace. And today I select core value number 5, which is absolutely perfect for the homily I'm going to attempt to give today. We accept all forms as temporary appearances, permitted through enduring awareness of self. That, of course, is true self. We live this value by honoring all appearances and all experiences while continually reflecting on changeless truth. So before we get into that homily, we're going to have some announcements. And the first announcement is by Shauna. So Shauna, please take the mic. Thank you. You know, it's interesting, when Awakening Together first started, which was now about 12 years ago, we had a prayer circle. So it's nice to see that coming back. And we also had what we called Contemplation Together, which was much like what you guys now do on Wednesdays in the Sangha-led contemplation. So it's, you know, these things were there and then they kind of fell away, and it's fun to watch them return. What I'm going to do is start with an opening prayer. If you all would join me, I'd appreciate it. So what I'm asking for is the clarity, the inspiration about how to share what I have to share so that it's clear. So that maybe it sparks some realization in someone else who hasn't yet seen this. I know that all the words have been used before, and that's what makes me a bit nervous about this sharing, because the words definitely get in the way, no matter what words are used. So I don't know what to say in order to provide super clear pointing. So that's where I ask for help today. Amen. And so now we get to go into the reading. And Lin Castaldo, you know, a year, 9 months or so ago, I asked Lin to be my reader, and her mic wouldn't work that day. So I thought it might be fun to invite her back since she didn't get to read when I asked her to be my reader last time. So she's going to be my reader today. It's really 2 different readings. One is the majority of chapter 13 from NTI Mark. Not quite all of it. It's verses 4 to 37. And then the other is chapter 80 from the Tao Te Ching, an interpretive translation to live by, which was the translation that I did. So Lynn, please take it away.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity. The Holy Spirit's interpretation of the New Testament, NTI Mark, chapter 13, verses 4 through 37. As Jesus rested outside the temple with some of his apostles, they asked him privately, Master, I'm sorry, I just have to shut my phone off. Okay. Master, you speak of an end to these days as we know them. When will this come? What will be the signs? How shall we know? Jesus smiled at his brothers. His response to their concern was peaceful and certain. Let not your fears deceive you. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. Such things will seem to happen before this world fades away. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes and famines. All this is but birth pangs of this world. Love not this world, but do not fear it, for the world will pass away, but you are eternal. You must be on guard and watch the thoughts within your mind. You may see yourselves arrested and flogged, or you may see yourself standing as witness unto yourself before governors and kings. This is your choice. The light of God will shine throughout, and then the end will come. Master, an apostle asked, what shall we say when we are brought as witnesses before governors and kings? Do not worry beforehand what you will say. Say whatever is given you at the time, and trust it is the Holy Spirit speaking through you. Do not judge what you say, but give it as a gift by accepting it as a gift for you. What other signs will we see? They asked. As long as there is darkness within the mind, you will see brother betray brother and father betray child. Children will rebel against parents, and each one will blame another for his woes. But I say, stand firm in your faith. Trust not the thoughts of death. Listen only to the Holy Spirit, and your thoughts shall be your salvation. Jesus looked at the apostles. He was still and restful in his manner. The world shall be the world until the thought that made it is no more. When the thought is gone, the world shall disappear with it. You will notice nothing but a tiny wisp of air, and then it shall be no more. And you will be glad, for all you will know is peace and freedom and joy. Do not worry that you will not be ready. For before this time, you will look out on the world and see the Christ as if it rains upon the earth from clouds held up by angels. You will know this power and glory within you, and the ends of the earth will fade into the ends of heaven before your sight. Learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know summer is near. Even so, when your heart is filled with the glory of God and you see the world in this way, you know that heaven is near, right at the door awaiting you. I tell you the truth, you have nothing to fear. All that is not of God will pass away, but what is of God will last forever, even from this day into eternity. Master, they asked, when will this happen? Jesus chuckled. There is no day or hour to which you can look. There is only now. Accept all that I say as true. Keep watch on your mind, even onto this moment. Now is the time for salvation, for there is no other time but now. Do not fall asleep and let this time pass you by. What I say to you, I say to everyone. Stay alert and keep watch in joyfulness. Jesus was smiling, so the apostles listening to him could not be afraid. So that's the end of Mark. Then the Tao Te Ching, the interpretive translation to live by. This is chapter 80, happy with what is. This symbolizes being content, small communities with few people, a variety of tools and skills that no longer have a use, a natural appreciation for human mortality, yet no need to chase after faraway dreams. Although people have boats and carriages, they have no place to go and no reason to leave. Although they have military implements, there's no reason to show them off. The people have returned to simple ways of keeping records. They enjoy their food, are pleased with their clothes, are happy with their homes, and delight in their customs. The neighboring community is within sight. They can hear each other's chickens and dogs. Yet when they reach old age and die without needing, yet they reach old age and die without needing to meddle in each other's affairs. Thank you.
Thank you. Shortly after the reading started, I realized I forgot the song, but that's really okay. And let me tell you why, even though I didn't do it on purpose. As I was preparing for this homily, the hard part was finding songs. I literally spent 3 hours trying to find songs, and then I kind of thought, what the heck, and I just picked 3 songs. But what's interesting is the reason I had trouble finding songs, because all the songs had words in them. And all the words were wrong. Like I just couldn't find a song with the right words. Now this morning, just before I started the homily, I thought of a song, which isn't one of the ones that I picked, that maybe is the closest to it. So Marisol, I don't know if you want to use time to go get this song on YouTube and maybe after I'm done, play it instead of the one I picked. If you do, it's John Lennon. Let's see. John Lennon, God. God is just the name of the song. So if you want to, you can. You don't have to. I'm going to let you pick whatever song you want to play, either one of the 3 I gave you or that one at the end of the homily. But it was interesting. It was really interesting how I could not find a song. And even this song by John Lennon isn't going to be perfect, but it's probably the closest. So as I mentioned, the name of the homily today is Reality Beyond Thought. And the description I wrote says, Rev. Regina Dawn Akers will lead us to look at the difference between thought, which we subconsciously mistake for reality, and reality, which is present and actual. And the reason this reading from NTI Mark stood out at me is because, in case you guys haven't noticed, there's a lot going on in the world right now, a lot going on in the news. In fact, if you really enjoy a good drama TV series, the world is a lot like that right now. You know, like there's something to read every day, and you never can predict what's going to happen tomorrow. So it's just as interesting as streaming a good TV series. And of course, most people get caught up in that. You know, most people read all of those words. They trigger a lot of thoughts. that are subconsciously believed to be reality. And then there's a lot of opinions, emotions, etc., etc., etc. So what I want to try and do today is show you the difference between thought and reality. And actually, chapter 80 from the Tao Te Ching really points as well as anything does to what reality is. And again, all these words suck. I wish I could create a new language right now that you guys could instantly understand so we could talk about this much more clearly. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, even though I have to use familiar words, I'm going to ask you to try your best to hear these words as if you've never heard them before, so that maybe you can see where they're pointing. So the only actual, hear that word, actual reality is right here, right now. So what I want you to do is just be with right here, right now. Now, I understand fully that from the perspective of these bodies, which have senses, what each and every one of us are able to look around and see, what each and every one of us are able to feel, hear, maybe smell, taste, if that's going on too, is different. And that's okay. We aren't trying to perceive the same thing right now. We're trying to be honest about what is actual in our experience and what is thought. We're only trying to separate those two things. So pay attention right now to whatever is actual for you. For example, I have two shades here that I've closed so you can see my face. If the sun was coming in, you'd just see this light filtering across, which would make me look really enlightened. But it would be the sun. But I just saw, somehow, I guess, I don't know what happened, the shade blue or something. And I saw a glimmer of light come across that experience for that moment that it lasted was actual. So I'm just being silent for a moment while you pay attention to actual, not thought. Now what I'd like you to do is think of someone that you know that you're close to that isn't in the room with you right now. That's thought. Now, if that person happened to be in the room with you right now and, especially if they reach over and touch you or speak to you in some way, grab that attention of yours, then that would be actual. But if they aren't here right now, they exist nowhere but in thought. That is thought. Can you see the difference between actual and thought? When I look out in front of me, I see a mountain that has a name called Greenhorn Mountain, and we'll get to names in a moment. But it has a name called Greenhorn Mountain. On the other side of that mountain is Levita and Shauna. Now I can see Shauna's image on the screen. So seeing that image, which is not Shauna, by the way, that image, that face on the screen, those pixels lit up that way, that's actual for me. But when I think of what's on the other side of that mountain, and I think of Levita, and I think of Shauna, and I think of the retreat house, and I think of, hiking the West Peak, that's thought. Can you find anything at all right now about the past that is not thought? It's all thought. Likewise, can you find anything at all right now, here and now, about the future that is not thought? You know, chances are, odds are, by the way, I see my partner and my dog walking by right now. Oops, they just disappeared behind a bush. They went from actual to thought that quick. That's what we mean when we say we accept all forms as temporary appearances. You know, and what I was about to say is chances are when this homily is done, I'm going to go into our kitchen and my partner will have prepared pancakes. Mine typically have chocolate chips and peanut butter chips in them, and then either turkey sausage or maybe turkey bacon for breakfast, and I'll eat that breakfast. That may actually happen. In fact, if I was betting my money, I'd bet it because that's the plan. That's what happens every Sunday almost. But right now, that is still thought. And the interesting thing about thoughts, well, there's so many interesting things about thoughts, I don't even know where to begin. One thing that's really interesting about thoughts is they can be very, 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 very wrong in so many ways. To simplify it, you know, you can talk about the past with someone who was there then, and you can argue with them or debate with them about what happened because they're absolutely certain it went this way and you're absolutely certain it went that way. The reason that is because it's just thought. Thoughts get distorted. Thoughts forget some things. Thoughts make up things. You know, I've sat with people and said, you were with me when and they're like, I've never been there in my life. You know, my mind inserted that person into that experience, and that person swears they've never been in that place, so it couldn't have been them. That's because it's just thought. It's not reality. You cannot look at a single solitary memory and call it reality and be right, because you're wrong 100% of the time. And the future is either A, projection, like my breakfast is at this point, at this moment, my breakfast is a projection. I'm projecting forward memories of what we've done many other Sundays and a conversation about a plan about what we would do today. But I don't know for a fact that breakfast is going to happen. Something else could come up, something could shift, right? It's a projection at best, and often it's pure imagination. Just making stuff up and believing it. There is absolutely no actual in the future. It is just thought. Again, the purpose of this homily is to help us all see the difference between thought, which we subconsciously mistake for reality. Do you hear that? Do you hear how important that phrase is? The difference between thought, which we subconsciously mistake for reality, and reality, which is present and actual. And those of you who have taken MPP and taken that Buddhist class, you might remember that there's something in there that's accredited to Buddha, where he talks about getting swept away in the past. He talks about getting swept away in the future. but he talks about getting swept away in the present too. So let's go there. Because just because it kind of appears to be here and now doesn't mean it's actual. Because, I mean, how many people have experienced thought here and now? Right? Okay, so that deceiving force can be distorting here and now. And it does it in ways you can't even fathom. Hold on one second. I hear the pit patter of little footprints outside my door, which means somebody wants it. Did you want to come in, sweetheart? Oh my goodness. Good girl. All right. So some of the ways that we get swept away in the present obviously are by getting lost in thought, right? You know, we talked about when Shauna was giving the announcement, she talked about that negative self-talk. You know, that negative self-talk, like if that was saying to me right now, you know, Gina, these people do not understand what you're saying. You're just blabbering, blabbering, blabbering. You know, you shouldn't do weekly gatherings anymore, blah, 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 blah. I'd be swept away in that present experience. Right? So that's one way you get swept away in the present. And I think everybody here at Awakening Together is very familiar with that. But you remember when I talked about that mountain that has a name, Greenhorn? This is where it gets hard to talk. The friggin' words themselves cause us to miss reality here and now. As soon as I accept that's Greenhorn, really accept it, I think I know that thing. And so I don't pay attention to that thing here and now because I know it's Greenhorn. I know Greenhorn. I've known Greenhorn for 15 and a half years. Even mountain. The second I call it mountain, I know what a mountain is. I cease to pay attention to it as it actually is here and now. This this isn't anything I was unfamiliar with, but this hit me like a ton of bricks one day when I was folding laundry, and I picked up what we would call a sock. And I don't know why, it hit me like a ton of bricks that sock is not what it is. I mean, we've all heard they're just labels, right? We've all heard this stuff. But it hit me like a ton of bricks. Sock is not what it is. And in fact, in that moment, the next question that came in is, what is it? And I found I could not give an answer with words. The absolute best answer I could give to that question was, it is what it is. That was the only answer that felt honest and genuine. So we get swept away by the present, you know, just by the conversation of thoughts or the monologue of thoughts. It can be either that's going on in the mind. But we also get swept away really from the present with words, with names, with labels, which can also be called with thinking we know. You know, in the Bible somewhere, Jesus said something about you must become like little children. You've all heard that before, right? Well, if we go back young enough, little children don't know. which is why, when I was a mother of a 2-year-old trying to rush her off to daycare so I could go through traffic and get to work on time, it was so friggin' frustrating because she'd stop and want to pick up a rock and look at it. Right? You guys, I see people laughing, you know that. They're exploring the moment. But as adults, we know so much stuff that we forget to explore the moment. We are living in thought. And thought is not actual. So in this reading from NTI Mark chapter 13, the apostles say, you speak of an end to these days as we know them. When will this end come? Of course, I don't know what they're imagining. I think maybe I know. I think maybe they were imagining the Romans pulling out and the Jews getting the land back. Maybe. That's probably what they were. These days were occupied by Romans, right? You say they're going to end. When's that going to happen? That's probably what they were imagining. Nowadays, when people read it, with the way the teachings have evolved since Jesus's time, I think they imagine somehow the world ending and people ascending through a rapture up to some glorious heaven, however they imagine heaven. Or non-dual people, I don't know what non-dual people imagine. Maybe the world disappearing into nothing but light, I don't know what the heck people imagine. By the way, everything I just said was thought. Notice I kept using the word imagine. So they were imagining something when he spoke about the end of these days. And they said, you speak of an end to these days as we know them. When will this end come? And Jesus says, when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. Now, what jumps out at me that never jumped out at me, in my previous stages of awakening, and you guys know that my hand wrote this book, so I've read these words a lot of times, right? Funny how I can see the words now and see something different that I never saw before. Isn't that funny? But what jumps out at me now when I read, when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, is when you hear of. In other words, what I see in that sentence is thought. In other words, the way I would reread the sentence, the way it's written is, when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. But the way I see the sentence now, the way I would rewrite it is, when you hear thoughts, do not be alarmed. When you're exposed to thought, do not be alarmed. It's just thought. Such things will seem to happen. There's going to be lots of thoughts, lots of rumors, lots of stories before this world fades away. Do you realize that if I sit here now and I look at the actual, there's no war here. There's no tariff here. There's no trees being cut down here. There's not even a bank account here. There's not a stock market here. There's a sleeping dog. Very quiet. Right now, I don't even see a breeze here. There's a ringing in the ears. Let me jump forward for a moment and read chapter 80 from the Tao Te Ching. Small communities with few people, a variety of tools and skills that no longer have a use. a natural appreciation for human mortality, yet no need to chase after faraway dreams. Although the people have boats and carriages, they have no place to go and no reason to leave. Although they have military implements, there's no reason to show them off. The people have returned to simple ways of keeping records. They enjoy their food, are pleased with their clothes, are happy with their homes, and delight in their customs. The neighboring community is within sight. They can hear each other's chickens and dogs, yet they reach old age and die without needing to meddle in each other's affairs. What I hear in this is a picture being painted of living in the actual, without that imaginary world of thought. Now, some people might say, yeah, but, the Palestinians right now are dealing with da-da-da-da-da-da-da, whatever. I get that. But that's not my job, because whatever's my job shows up in my actual. I'm not saying that's not maybe somebody's job. Just like I said, we all right now, when we perceive, when I tell you to look around, look at your actual, you are not, you don't have this sleeping dog here. You may have a sleeping dog. You don't have this sleeping dog in your actual. For you, my dog sleeping next to me is only a thought. Whatever is for me to handle, and by the way, if you read the entire Tao Te Ching, you're going to find this in there too. Whatever is for me to handle is going to show up in my actual. And when it shows up in my actual, I will know what to do with it. Don't get me wrong, I have compassion for people whose entire world has been destroyed by war. But I can see the difference between actual and that thought in my mind. And I know to stay right here with actual as it happens in this experience. In some ways, it's as if I've come full circle. And in other ways, it's as if nothing is the same or ever could be again. It's kind of funny how both are true. Because of how artificial thought is appearing to me now. And don't get me wrong, thought appears. The difference is this phrase. Thought, which we subconsciously mistake for reality. The difference is somehow that subconsciously mistake for reality piece for me is falling apart. It's crumbling. Okay, that's the difference. Not that there isn't thought, because there is. It's that subconsciously mistake for reality piece. That's what's crumbling and falling away. So, another interesting side effect of that is that I'm not really overly interested in spiritual teachings anymore. I'm not interested in reading spiritual books. I'm not interested in having spiritual discussions. When I sit down with my journal and try to put the pen to paper, I find I don't have a thing to say. And that's because even all of that is thought. It's thought. Now, I'm not saying that thought wasn't helpful for a very long time. In fact, I'm certain that thought is what got me to here now. But the interesting thing is how even the word spirituality, I mean, I can say it and I don't have an idea what that word means for you or anybody else. In fact, I remember once I was sitting in a chair in a salon, and a lady was cutting my hair and she asked me what I did. And at that time, when people asked me that question, I said, I'm a spiritual teacher. She got all excited and went off on all this crazy stuff that had nothing to do with my word spiritual. I mean, just like nothing at all. And that's when I realized, oh my God, that word doesn't mean a damn thing. I thought I knew what it meant, but clearly it means something different to this lady. And in fact, recently I was doing a satsang here in Awakening Together, and David came on and asked me, he said something like, would you call that experience non-dual? And I doubt you guys saw it. My brain just collapsed when I heard the word non-dual. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? And I think inside I felt a struggle for an answer. And the answer I gave was, well, moving in that direction. I mean, but what actually happened in my brain was, what the fuck does that mean? Now, I can, pull myself back together and get the definition. It means not to, and da 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 da. That's not the point. The point is what's happening is that thought is losing its meaning. Words are losing their meaning. That's actually occurring here. Doesn't mean I can't use them. Doesn't, I remember there's in Byron Katie's book that her husband wrote, 1,000 Names for Joy, maybe is the name of it. It's actually her commentary on his rendition of the Tao Te Ching. And I remember there's something in there she says about after her awakening, people would say things like, have a good day. And she would just laugh, or they'd say something about the sky. And finally she's like, okay, that's a sky. I mean, it's not like she forgot the definition of the word sky and couldn't use it. It's just that she was in that state of seeing that sky and this experience are not the same thing. They're just not. A sock is not a sock. Yet, if I want to ask you to pass me a sock, though I don't know why I would, I can still use those words. But all thought. I remember, also Michael Langford in one of his books, probably the Eternal Bliss book, says something like, nearly every word in the dictionary is an illusion. I get that now in a way that I didn't get that before. I also remember when I first started this spiritual path, somewhere in that first year when I was doing the course workbook for the first time, there was a day in my office when I had closed the door and I was focusing on my lesson for the day. And I felt the guidance to go erase whatever was on my whiteboard in my office and write is really big. And then got to go back and sit in my chair and look at that word is. And when I sat down and looked at that word is on the whiteboard, what I heard was, that's the only English word that means anything. One word is. It's the only English word that means anything. What's also interesting is I'm talking about how all thought is not reality, and yet notice how I can still refer to thought, refer to memories in order to communicate. And yet, even though I can do that, I am not confused anymore. I am not confused anymore that when I tell that story, that somehow it's reality. I realize that I'm using an illustration to make a point. But I am not confused between thought and reality, even though all day long I have conversations with people. You know, Shauna and I are meeting tomorrow. My guess is around 1 o'clock. She'll show up at my door for some poop bags, maybe. And maybe to see somebody that's at my place. That's thought. It's so funny how you can play in thought and not be confused anymore that it's reality, because somehow this subconscious mistake either has crumbled or is crumbling. I would use the words is crumbling. That feels more honest to me. Is crumbling. But I notice it on a daily basis, the crumbling away of it, the falling away of it. I am seeing an actual difference in, I'm going to call it, my relationship with thought than it has ever been prior to where I'm at now. You know, Jesus says in this NTI Mark 13, which by the way is a fictional story of thought I would just make that clear in case anybody was confused. It's an illustration. Jesus says in this fictional story of thought, the light of God will shine throughout, and then the end will come. Now, the light of God is, of course, a symbol. It's words, it's thought, but it's pointing to an experience that doesn't make that mountain disappear into nothing but light. It still appears exactly as it appears. But there's this new relationship with it when the eyes land on it. And again, all the words suck because relationship isn't even a good word, but let's go with it. There's a new relationship with it when the eyes land on it. That's appreciating it for exactly as it appears right now, without thought. Just it's an immediate connection. There's no separation between the awareness that's aware of it and it. It's an immediate joinedness that just happens automatically. So it doesn't look like light. It looks like what everybody else would call a mountain with snow on it and ridges in it and trees on it. But yet, the actual experience is different from when it was a mountain that I already knew. That was thought, that was mind. This is actual. That's the light of God, that actual connectedness that is genuinely occurring all the time with everyone. This is nothing new. You guys have all heard that before. You've all heard all this before. That is nothing new. It's just that thought was in the way of the actual experience, the actual joining, the actual connection, the actual intimacy, the actual whatever friggin' word you want to throw at it. So it's time for me to wrap this up and for Marisol to surprise us with whatever song she has decided to play. So let me just say this. what I would recommend, if you want this to be more than thought, if you want this to be an actual experience, this crumbling away of this subconscious mistaking of thought for reality, what I would recommend is that you start just noticing. Again, I'm in 500 days for NTI. So once again, this morning, I watched the video, Awareness Alone is Curative. Some of you guys know that video. Just start noticing when you're caught up in thought as if it's reality. Just notice, oh my goodness, I got caught up in thought as if it was reality. I was worried about my kid in another state. That's thought. I was worried about tariffs and what that's doing to the stock market. That's thought. I remember a friend of mine once was really terrified. I think she had just gotten divorced and just lost her job. And so her whole life was kind of collapsing around her, and she was terrified. She didn't know where she was going to do, what she was going to do. She was worried about it. And her sister came in from work and saw her sitting there on the sofa, just all worked up. And her sister said, what's wrong? And this friend of mine started spilling out all this stuff. And she said to her, Donna, you're just sitting on the sofa. Man, was her sister clear in that moment. You're just sitting on the sofa. What's the difference between actual and thought? Start looking for that line. And you're going to find that, oh my God, I don't know, 95%, and that may be a conservative estimate, it might actually be more, 95% of what you think is reality is just thought. And it's when you clear all that away, all that thought, and thought will get in the way again, thought will get in the way again, clear all that thought away, and then you start to get a sense of the light of God will shine throughout. And then the end will come, which means, that's why I said the mind is collapsing. I didn't say collapsed. All right, so Marisol's going to play a song for us. She'll have to tell us which one, or we'll discover it as it starts playing. Also, as you all know, this is an opportunity to make a donation to Awakening Together if you choose to do so. And as a church, donations are still our primary form of income, and it does take income to run any type of organization in this world. So keep that in mind if you appreciate what you get here. Marisol, what's our song? Yeah, that was probably the best song. Funny that didn't appear until I was logging on this morning. I've explained to my friends, the people I talk to most often, you're all my friends, but there are certain ones I talk to most often. I've explained to them that I'm becoming more and more spontaneous. It's like you really can't count on me anymore. Like I'm trying to be the old responsible Regina, who actually, along with Jacqueline, developed this order of service with put in 3 songs and make sure you send it to the sanctuary director by Thursday. I made up those rules. And it's getting harder for me to follow the rules I made up. And like I said, I spent 3 hours trying to find songs, and finally it just hurt. I'm like, whatever, here's 3 songs. And then as I'm logging in this morning, the perfect song appears all by itself without any trying to find a song. That's happening more and more too. It's just like, once upon a time, before I was even on the spiritual path, but this shows the personality. I worked at this company called PHCS, and we had some kind of a training. And one of the things we had to do was give everybody a name where there was a descriptor in front of their name, but it had to start with the same letter. So since my name is Regina, they had to find something to put in front of it that started with an R. You know what the team named me? Responsible Regina. Well, I suppose that, consciousness, God, whatever it is that led me to do all this stuff that I've done, building Awakening Together, it took advantage of that responsible Regina. And then it told her to retire. We'll call her retired Regina now. And then it kind of laughed and said, ha ha ha, now we're going to take all that shit away. You're no longer going to be able to be responsible no matter how friggin' hard you try. So now I'm retired, Regina. And really, this is not it's not like I am losing interest in trying to follow the order of service that I created and ask everybody else to follow. It's that the capability to do that is being taken away. That's different. You understand? So it's going to be fun watching this as it continues to fall apart. But things that people counted on me before for, they may not be able to count on me for again because the capability might be gone. So we'll just see what happens. So this is the part of the service where you all get to share. So who wants to say something? All right. Did I see a hand, Patricia?
Yeah. Hi. I couldn't find the hand. Just came to mind that you know how NTI and every teaching says about judgment. I just thought that thought is just judgment upon reality, right?
Yes.
It's the mind's intervention about what is about experience. And it's that same old judgment that it's not necessary.
Thank you. Yolanda.
Hi, thank you so much for this. My emotions are all over the place. And so my question is like, emotions are thoughts. Is that correct?
Actually, it takes a time to see that, but yes, that has been clearly seen from my point of view. They are definitely thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just talk. Is that all you had to say, Yolanda? Let me just talk about that for a second. That actually became super clear to me not that long ago. Again, I'm going through 500 days with my friend Danielle, and there was a portion of 500 days where every day you're looking at a different emotion. Like today, you know, you're looking for anxiety. Today, you're looking for depression. Today, you're looking for whatever. And it would feed you at the beginning of the day what you're looking for. And so I'm looking for it. And maybe because I'm looking for it, sometimes nothing would show up at all. And I'd have to say, I'm sorry, nothing showed up. But sometimes something would. I'd say, oh, you know, maybe that's anxiety. And so I would look at it and I would find like the thought of anxiety might be there. Like maybe I felt a little anxious driving in the heavy traffic in Atlanta because I'm not used to that. But when I looked in the body, I found, you know, maybe some tightening, maybe, you know, some kind of a feeling, you know, I could identify these things, but without the thought, they weren't anxiety. They were just what they were, just like the mountain is just what it is. It took the thought to define it as the emotion. If you subtract the thought, it was just what it was. So, Dove.
Hi, Regina. Thank you so much. That was so inspiring to me. Actually, you know, like the old thought, like minds think alike. I had the same idea to talk on, and you know, all ministers are given an opportunity to put their name on the schedule, and I haven't done that for a while. And it came to me just this past week because over at Gather. One of the things that's been happening is someone said, well, you know, platitudes don't really help me at all, you know. And a platitudes, of course, you know, the Course in Miracles is full of platitudes like, I am not a body. Like, but that doesn't help me, you know. There is no world. But that doesn't help me. You know, there's nothing outside of you, but that doesn't help me. Well, you know, on my card, it says, be grateful for your triggers, because they reveal your mistaken beliefs. And of course, I spelled the word belief with a big L-I-E right in the center. Now, a belief is a thought. That's exactly what it is. A belief is a thought. So, there's two ways of teaching. One is called direct teaching, like the Course in Miracles is direct. I'm not a body, there is no world, but that doesn't help me. It's no accident that it says all things are lessons God would have me learn. So I'm really in a classroom. This world is a classroom, but we don't learn our lessons from a book. I remember 20 years ago, I heard a voice say to me, "Hey, Dove, close the book already. You can't find yourself in a book." So the evolution from closing the book is to recognize that all of our relationships are our real teachers. And I'm not only talking about the people in our life, I'm talking about my relationship with my computer, with my telephone, my this, my that. And, those things that really bother me, those are my real teachers, because they're showing me that I'm listening to the wrong teacher. And just as you were saying, I'm listening to the wrong voice. I'm listening to a thought. Those thoughts are not even my thoughts, which is said over and over again. Your real thoughts are the ones that you and your thing on isness. Oh, that's so beautiful, because I listen to a lot of Ken Wapnick. He says, you can go through the whole Course in Miracles of 1,300 pages, and the only thing that's true is God is. and whether you say God is or love is, which is the same thing to me, you can drop the love and the God. It's just the isness. And there's a gal who wrote, she's from Scotland. She wrote a book of poetry, and it's called "Isness is Your Only Business." And we have actually we actually have a spot on our schedule on Mondays at 10:30 in which she reads her poetry. People are coming by the tons. Anyway, I want to say that I like to put my name on the schedule if there's an opening to actually share what it is that I was just sharing. So if there's an opening, please give it to me.
Okay, well, that, I'm not in charge of that anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's an opening. So Rhoda, are you here? Did you hear that? Is Rhoda here? Okay, she heard that. She's got that. All right, good.
Thank you, Rhoda.
All right, so I think I might smell pancakes, which might mean pancakes are moving from thought to actual. So I'm going to go. It was wonderful being here with you all. I do love you all very much. And I'll see you around. Bye.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.